From high atop the showroom at Alpin Haus in Amsterdam, the pool shop, and you can see the jacuzzis and spas behind me. I am set up, surrounded by the beautiful patio deck furniture that Alpin Haus has here on Route 30 in Amsterdam. Come check them out for whatever you need as we roll into spring and summer. Breaking news here on the show. Our guy, Rodger Wyland, reporting on NewsChannel 13 that Gerry McNamara is going to be the new head coach of the Siena men's basketball program. I'm pleasantly surprised. We'll talk about that, plenty about that coming up on the show here this week. The women's job is also open for Siena. What happens with that? We'll dive into it. I mean, where else to go here? We've got the Sweet 16 of the women's tournament in Albany this weekend. The Caitlin Clark hysteria coming to town. Can't wait to be part of the madness, truly, the March Madness, with Iowa in town for the Sweet 16, along with undefeated South Carolina, the defending champs in LSU. So much there. The men's side of things to dive into as well. We've got our Major League Baseball season-long predictions, division, wild card, and World Series winners. Of course, we're going to dive into the Marcellus MVP of the month. The Performance Industrial Dirty Difficult Done hinges on Jimmer Fredette becoming an Olympian. It's official. Let's go. It's Onorato and Miller.
This is Onorato and Miller, sponsored by Alpin Haus.
Yeah, Alpin Haus, Katie Osborne, Andy Heck, the entire Heck family for supporting our show every single week. Performance Industrial, Marcellus, I just mentioned, our guys over at Novice, and of course, Bev's, the premier beverage centers in the capital region. What you drinking, as the owner Jeff Uklick likes to say. I'll tell you what, Siena fans are going to be drinking some orange juice. That's for sure. Gerry McNamara, again, according to our Rodger Wyland at NewsChannel 13, there is an agreement in place for the Syracuse associate head coach and legend, playing legend, Gerry McNamara, to take over as the head coach at Siena. Remember, there were the rumors back to when, before Carm Massarello got the job, that maybe McNamara could be a name. Well, guess what? It's back 5 years later and going to add a lot of juice to that program. There's no doubt about that. I will reflect back on Carm's time as well. Fan of his, and did a good job other than that last season, obviously, and maybe that was too much to overcome. But let's focus on the here and the now, and that is Gerry McNamara. What does he bring? Cachet, right? He is a name that obviously is well respected for his playing days, but not only that, I mean, he's tied into the City Rocks program pipeline. He recruits well. We know that from Syracuse, certainly. And he's just going to bring a little bit of that name recognition with him to the Siena program, a program that obviously, I'd say needs a shot in the arm. It really doesn't when you look at what Carm was able to do in terms of winning games, but in terms of getting and keeping players, that's the biggest challenge for any head coach at the mid-major level. You can get them. How do you keep them? Once they've played really well for a year or two, how do you re-recruit them and keep them in your program, not leave through the transfer portal the way we've seen players leave Loudonville here in the last few years? That is something that Gerry McNamara will certainly have to deal with. I will admit, I said being the show just a few minutes ago, pleasantly surprised. Why? I just didn't think the numbers were going to match up. I just kept thinking to myself, hey, this is fun to talk about and think about, but ultimately, he's the top guy on the bench behind Adrian Autry at Syracuse. He has to be making more than what Siena is going to offer. Those numbers will come out. And as we do the show on a Wednesday night ahead of opening day for Major League Baseball, we wanted to get our predictions out there to everybody before games started. This information certainly will come to light as you're watching Onorato and Miller on TV over the weekend, Saturday nights and Sunday mornings. But we've all probably done this in our lives. when you have a dream you are pursuing, you're willing to sacrifice some things. And generally, that comes in title, which this is not, and then money. So are you willing to take a step down in title in order to launch your career where you want it to go, or are you willing to take less money in order to make that happen? And obviously my expectation is that Gerry McNamara had to take less money to begin his head coaching career. That's just the way that goes. Exciting stuff. GMAC to Siena, again, according to our Rodger Wyland at News Channel 13. The women's job is also open at Siena. Jim Jaber retires. Names thrown about. Have to pay attention to Will Brown's name, don't you? Even for the people who say, it's lazy. We just kind of default to always bringing up Will's name when there's a head coaching opening in the 518. This is legit now. The woman who hired Will at St. Rose, Lori Anktel, is back at Siena now. And look at what Will did with that St. Rose women's basketball program. An NCAA tournament appearance for the first time in nearly 15 years. Pretty impressive. All right, we're just getting started here on Onorato and Miller. Hang on.
Using the highest quality materials, artisanal craftsmanship, and creative design, we're ready to help bring the vacation experience to your own home. With custom-designed Legacy Edition pools, we're confident we can turn your backyard into your own personal oasis. And we'll be by your side through the whole process. Get outside this summer with Alpin Haus. Be sure to visit our brand new 16,000 square foot showroom expansion on Route 30 in Amsterdam. Alpin Haus Pools and Hot Tubs, Amsterdam and Clifton Park.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus.
Now, let me just say on Carm, okay? I understand you can't just throw out a 4-28 season and pretend like it never happened. I'm not suggesting we do that. Clearly, it just became a little too much to overcome, and the transfer portal has been a challenge, and it is a challenge for every mid-major coach. But if you look at the resume, and ifs and buts and candies and nuts, I get it. But really, I mean, Carm had success there. Won games. And if not for COVID canceling that MAC tournament, Siena's going to the NCAA tournament. And then can you try to then expand out and say, okay, if you win the MAC and you get to the NCAA tournament, what that would do for recruiting? And maybe years later holding on to guys. Don't know, we'll never know, obviously. But I just, I understand the struggles of 2023-24 and that season, but I don't want to dismiss what he was still able to accomplish there in winning some games. Now, the women's side is very interesting. Okay, I'll backtrack in a second. The women's side is very interesting. Jim Jaber has retired. Mark Singlace, I believe, of the Times-Union is the one to report that his wife got a job at Stanford. The family will move to the West Coast. This name is going to come up. And people say, it's lazy reporting, speculation that every time there's a basketball head coach opening at Siena, Will Brown's name pops up. Why shouldn't it? I think he should be considered for the men's job. I think he should be hired without much deliberation for the women's job. If Siena decides they can get Gerry McNamara and that's the direction they want to go, or if they just decide they don't want to hire Will for the men's job, whatever, fine. I'll leave that where it is. But if Will shows interest in the women's job, I don't need to talk with anybody else. Look at what he did in one season with the St. Rose women's basketball team. An NCAA tournament appearance for the first time in nearly 15 years. And the woman who hired Will at St. Rose, Lori Anktel, as the athletic director there, is now back at Siena where she was previously. It all makes maybe too much sense, but it should be an easy hire, I think. So there you go. We didn't have any time to talk about it last week on the show. We were jam-packed with guests. Not the case this week. We had so much going on. I want to let it breathe a little bit and have some conversations here with you all. So that's exactly what we're going to do. My thoughts there on the Siena head coaching positions. We've got our Major League Baseball predictions here on the show. We have Sweet 16 and Elite 8 in both the men's and women's tournaments. We're going to break down the field on the women's side because they will be in Albany, New York. It's Onorato and Miller from Alpin Haus in Amsterdam. Back right after this.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on for cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair. You can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
It's March Mania here at Alpin Haus RV. March is full of big games and even bigger savings on new RVs, like this Coachman Catalina for $153 a month, or this Keystone Cougar Sport for only $344 a month. Come in today and shop a full line of America's top brands. Our knowledgeable team of outfitters is here to help you find the perfect RV. Shop online anytime at alpinhausrv.com. Great savings all month long at Alpin Haus RV in Amsterdam and Saratoga.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus.
Dr. Kyle Flick from Ortho, New York, still on the way ahead of Major League Baseball's opening day. A lot of injuries to talk about with him. Timeline for some of the stars in the sport to come back, including the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League, Garrett Cole, who won't be on the mound opening day for the Yanks in Houston. We'll talk with the Flickster about the injuries hampering some of the stars in baseball. Shohei Ohtani's issues and ordeals and Major League Baseball's investigation into him. I'll say this and then we'll come back to it. If baseball doesn't punish him in some way, bad on them, and they must have the worst investigators in the world. I'll share Andrew Brandt's thoughts on what happened with Ohtani this week, a guy I respect greatly when it comes to the business of sports. Too much smoke without fire. Know what I'm saying? All right, here we go. This is the big thing happening in the 518 now. Sweet 16 and Elite 8, the Albany region, the defending champs LSU, UCLA on Saturday. Why are we starting with Saturday? Well, because you have the defending champs, and then you have Caitlin Clark. Don't worry, we'll come back to it, and I'll give my predictions. These are the four matchups in Albany, Saturday, and now you're looking at Friday on your screen between Notre Dame and Oregon State. Let's talk about the Iowa matchup, Caitlin Clark. It's what everybody wants to talk about, right? Sneaky little spot here maybe against Colorado. My predictions for this particular region, though, and I'll give my men's picks as well in the Sweet 16. Let me just say this. I was almost spot on with the men's. I'll show you that here in a second. Here's the women's side. I like Notre Dame over Oregon State. Yeah, chalky. I know. A lot of chalk here. I like South Carolina over Indiana. I like LSU over UCLA. Bruins team that struggled to get out of the round of 32. And then I will take Iowa over Colorado, but I don't think it's going to be easy. It wasn't easy in the round of 32 Monday night for Caitlin Clark and the Hawkeyes. I don't think it will be easy against Colorado. Notre Dame, South Carolina, I even think LSU, we all want LSU, Iowa, and of course, that's what I hope happens. And we want South Carolina, Notre Dame. What a back-to-back Sunday, Monday that would be for MVP Arena in downtown Albany, and people trying to hawk tickets on the third-party market, right? Yeah, people are going to make some money. There's no doubt about it. But if you want to get in the building, sometimes you pay for it. That's the way it goes. This is going to be fun. The buzz is already in the newsroom at NewsChannel 13. Like, hey, what hotel is Iowa at? When do we get our first look at Caitlin Clark? Is it coming off the plane? Is it coming off a team bus? Is it walking into the arena? Or do we have to wait until shoot around practice Friday? We'll see. We'll see. Fun time. Fun time to be a college basketball fan in the Capital Region. This just broke on Wednesday before we popped on to do the show here. Ice Cube, who runs the Big Three, it's that summer tournament of, I'll say, some retired NBA players, but other guys who are active and skilled, certainly not NBA players. That league has offered Caitlin Clark $5 million to play for them this summer. What's the downside? I mean, what is the downside? She will have already gone through the WNBA draft process. Number one overall of the Indiana Fever, we certainly all presume. I guess the downside is the risk of injury, but it's a $5 million payday for her. Yes, she has endorsements, Nike and State Farm, but why not do it? Why not do it? Get out there and play against some men, go have some fun. Ice Cube knows it'll draw a lot of ratings and sponsors and all that stuff. So $5 million is worth the investment for him. I hope she doesn't. And it won't, while it does coincide, it won't conflict with the WNBA season. Ice Cube has said she can still play in the WNBA. We're not keeping her out of that. So a couple of things at play here. Will Clark decide to do it? 2, will the Indiana Fever try to block her from doing that? Read online that rookie salary, a top 5 pick, about $75,000 in the first year, approaches $100,000 by the end of that contract. Go do it. Go do it. I hope she does. That would be a lot of fun. How about on the men's side here? You know what? Do we like to just kind of look back and see, Onorato, how did you do? I didn't pick Sweet 16s. But I will show you my Elite 8, which is kind of a way to get you there. Guess what? They're all still alive. All still alive here. And when I make my predictions, it probably won't shock you that I am probably going to stick with my original gut here. All right? Only 8 double-digit seeds won first-round games. Only 1 remains. NC State is an 11. It's only double-digit seeds still alive. We've had double-digit seeds reach the Final Four. There's only 1 in the Sweet 16. Here we go. Thursday's games. I like Arizona over Clemson. Now, just full disclosure, Joseph Girard III, don't listen. I've kind of been picking against Clemson, but only because of the struggles they had late in the season. This is an incredibly talented team. They started 9-0. And so we knew if the Tigers play to their potential, they could make a little run here. Well, they've done that, and they've done that into the Sweet 16. I still think the Wildcats are the better team. I like Carolina over Alabama in what should be a high-scoring, fun game. Good chance I don't get much sleep Thursday into Friday, because that one will keep me up. I want to watch it for sure. Oh, then like UConn over San Diego State in that national championship rematch. And then I'm going to take the 3 over the 2 here, chalk the rest of the way, take the 3 over the 2 here, Illinois over Iowa State. Again, it shouldn't shock you. I did show you my Elite 8. I'm sticking true to that previously. Marquette over NC State. Fun run for the Wolfpack all the way through the ACC tournament into the Sweet 16. It ends here with Marquette. Houston over Duke. I'm not super confident in this one. If Duke finds a way to win, I will not be surprised. Not the way they are currently playing. Filipowski is stepping up big time. I'm a doubter of his, yes, but he has really stepped up big time. So that one will be fun on Friday night. Gonzaga over Purdue. Here's where the 1 seed gets bounced. The first one to go for me, the Boilermakers. And that's despite Zach Edey playing so incredibly well and Purdue blowing out its opponents so far. Give me Gonzaga. Tried and true and tested, Mark Few. Give me the Zags. Creighton then, the 3 over the 2. So I've got the 5 Gonzaga, the 3 Creighton. I've got Creighton over Tennessee. I had picked at the beginning of this tournament. I liked all 3 Big East teams to reach the Final Four. Here it is again. Okay, this is from last week. This is not new. I had all 3 Big East teams to reach the tournament to make it into the Final Four. I'm going to stick with it here as they are all still alive in the Sweet 16. There you go. All right. Another time out here on Onorato and Miller. We have rule changes in the NFL, which are significant and I think exciting. Jimmer Fredette headed to the Olympics. And our Major League Baseball predictions. That's all next here on Onorato and Miller. Back right after this from Alpin Haus in Amsterdam.
I'm Jeff Ukelek, I'm owner of Bev's, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just gonna have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place, it's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always going to get the same experience when you shop at Bev's. At the end of the day, if you walk in these stores, you're going to see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
Grab the family and get on the water in style with a Barletta pontoon featuring the power of a Mercury outboard motor. Whether you're cruising with the family or tubing and skiing, Barletta and Mercury will give you the best ride on the lake. Check out our great selection on Route 30 in Amsterdam and online at alpinhausboats.com.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus.
Pool season is here. Alpin Haus is your only place to get it done. I mean, it's not even just getting a pool installed. It's if you want a jacuzzi or hot tub, if it's just you need some of those essentials for your pool, whether balancing the chemicals or some of those pool toys, maybe some patio deck furniture. It is all here at Alpin Haus in Amsterdam. The boats are next door. Certainly stop in for one of those two. Just pick it up while you're here, right? Hey, what else do I need? I'll take a boat. Yeah, okay, great. Umbrellas, whatever you need. Grills, it is all here at Alpin Haus. Come check them out. Route 30 in Amsterdam. All right, our Major League Baseball predictions, they've waited long enough. Ash is chiming in this week as well. Shout out to our guy, John Conlon, again, who does the graphics for this show and at News Channel 13. What a talent. Even trying to make us look good wearing a hat. Interesting look there. But here are the division winners for Ash. She likes Baltimore to defend the title in the AL East. How about this one off the board? Detroit. Okay, some young talent with the Tigers. Javi Baez is there. Added a little bit in the offseason. Okay, Detroit. I mean, I think they would probably trail Minnesota and Cleveland in most people's minds. Kansas City getting some votes, maybe as a real dark horse for a wild card spot, not a division. But Ash likes the Tigers. And then the Astros out west, a division that is also very interesting because, of course, it includes the defending World Series champions. The three wild card teams, Yankees, Mariners, Rangers. So Ash has three teams coming out of the AL West. I think it's more than reasonable to expect one of these divisions, be it the East or the West, to pull three teams because I don't think you're going to get two from the Central. So there's Ashley with the American League division and wild card winners. Look at the size of the dome here, the face maybe. I mean, gosh, that picture, I could use a workout after that. My goodness, the hat barely fits on that head of mine. Tough. All right, anyway, my American League predictions. Yankees in the East. Twins in the Central. Astros in the West. Feel good about those. I think the Yankees have a big year. Big year. I think Soto wins MVP. I've said it before. Soto and Yordan Alvarez are like neck and neck for me and who's going to win MVP in the American League. I think it ends up being Soto in what is a contract year. Big year for him. Orioles are a wild card winner for me. I'm putting the Blue Jays in as well. And then I couldn't ignore the Rangers. And that's despite them not keeping or bringing back Jordan Montgomery, however you want to look at it. Those are my six American League playoff teams. Ash in the National League. Braves in the East, Cubs in the Central, Dodgers in the West. I got a feeling mine are going to look very similar to that. Phillies are a wild card team, as are the Cardinals, and then the defending NL pennant winners, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Okay, we might have a lot of crossover here. Here we go. Braves, Cubs, Dodgers. Played around a little bit with the NL East. The Phillies have that's a really good roster. I like the rotation as well. Top heavy, maybe if you're really big on Wheeler and Nola, but Taijuan Walker's in there. Ranger Suarez. But they're a wild card team for me, and maybe wreak a little more havoc as a wild card team this time around as well when we hit October. Cardinals are a wild card team for me. They're going to get more offensive production out of Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado this year. They add Sonny Gray. I feel good about what the Cardinals did in the offseason. I think they find a way to sneak into the playoffs here as well. And then the Padres. I just, looked at the Giants roster. Not enough offense for me. I like, yes, the fact that San Francisco signed Blake Snell. He goes from San Diego to San Francisco, but San Diego does make the move for Dylan Cease. So they did bring in a starting pitcher to, quote unquote, replace the National League Cy Young Award winner in Snell. So Musgrove and Darvish and Cease in San Diego, and they have the bat certainly to compete. Those are my 6 National League teams to make the playoffs. We'll give you our postseason predictions here coming up in a little bit, but it's been long enough without mentioning this story, which is the story of the week nationally and heck, internationally. That's for sure, because all eyes across the globe are on what will become of Japanese two-way star Shohei Ohtani. His interpreter fired by the Dodgers, and now Ohtani's accusing Ippei Muzahara of massive theft, $4.5 million. I don't know. Hard to believe that somebody has $4.5 million stolen from them, taken out of their bank account without their knowledge. This didn't just happen, and then the next day, his bank called him and said, hey, somebody withdrew $4.5 million. You should probably look into that. And then the Dodgers fired him. There's a process to this that we don't have all the information. And I said it at the beginning of the show. If Major League Baseball doesn't find some sort of discipline or punishment for Shohei Ohtani here, there's too much smoke. And I say it with college coaches. When there is a complete failure to control your assistant coach, back when there were improper benefits being handed out and the coach said, I had no idea. No way. I didn't buy it then. I won't buy it now with Ohtani, that he did not know something was happening with his guy, Musahara. I just will not buy that Shohei Ohtani didn't somehow authorize the $4.5 million to cover a gambling debt, or that Ohtani, even beyond that, was involved somehow. So an IRS Homeland Security investigation into a bookmaker led them to Ippei Muzahara. And then, of course, these details were uncovered involving Shohei Ohtani's bank account. There's too much here. There's not enough deniability for me. And so we'll see what happens. But is there teeth? Is there teeth in what Major League Baseball is doing? Or, which, who would be surprised if baseball just kind of slap on the wrist, backed off, said Ohtani has learned his lesson to be a little more careful with whom he surrounds himself, pay a little more attention to his bank account, but we can't lose our biggest star. That would be in the subtext. Rob Manfred would never say that. But the idea of suspending the sport's biggest star, that would take some guts, some teeth, like I said. We'll see if Major League Baseball is really up for that type of challenge. Another quick time out here on Onorato and Miller. When we come back, our Major League Baseball postseason predictions next.
At Marcella's Appliance Center, our commitment is to you, providing essential appliances that families depend on. For cooking, refrigeration, cleaning, and sanitation, plus appliance repair, you can have peace of mind that Marcella's is here for you today and every day, like we have been since 1957, helping you make the right choice with trusted brands like Whirlpool, Maytag, KitchenAid, and many more. Shop Marcella's Appliance Center in-store, online, or by phone. We're here for you.
I'm Jeff Ukelek. I'm owner of Bevs, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just gonna have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always gonna get the same experience when you shop at Bevs. At the end of the day, if you walk in your stores, you're gonna see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus.
I already told you I think Juan Soto wins MVP in the American League. You can't place a wager on these types of things in New York State. But I would probably then take Mookie Betts in the National League. I know, two guys who are kind of favored to do that. Speaking of MVPs, our Marcella's MVP of the month coming up here very shortly. We gave you our division and wild card winners. Here is how we see the postseason this baseball season playing out. Ashley's picks. Orioles into the World Series by beating the Astros in the ALCS, and then Dodgers over the Braves in the NLCS, which we saw, boy, isn't it hard to believe, like what will be 4 years ago. Oh, unreal. That COVID season when the Dodgers beat the Braves in the NLCS. Hard to believe it'll be 4 years ago. So the World Series then comes down to the Dodgers and the Orioles, and Ashley likes LA to get it done. A lot of pressure out there, of course, in the City of Angels. Can LA get it done this year with that payroll and the investment in the two Japanese stars? My ALCS, Yanks over the Stros. If we get that matchup, man, it'll be a lot of fun. Then the NLCS, I'm rolling with my Braves. I'm taking them over the Dodgers. I think the addition of Chris Sale really helps, assuming they can keep him healthy, of course, really helps in what would be a postseason run to try to match up with the likes of the Phillies, if you will, the team that's knocked out Atlanta the last 2 years, but also what Alex Anthopoulos, the GM in Atlanta, has done in terms of loading up that bullpen with some flamethrowers. The lineup should score a lot of runs, not as many as last year, won't hit as many home runs as last year, but still formidable. And then give me the Braves over the Yankees in the World Series. That would be the first time these two teams met in the World Series since 1999. A Yankees sweep. Played in 96 as well. That would be fun if we could get an Atlanta, New York World Series. Ashley and I would have to watch in different rooms. Let's just say that. Could not be in the same room watching World Series matchups like that. All right, so much more to go here on the show. Dr. Kyle Flick from Ortho New York on Major League Baseball injuries ahead of opening day. The Marcella's MVP of the month. Oh, yeah, and a little something we like to call Performance Industrial's Dirty, Difficult, Done.
And now, Dirty, Difficult, and Done. Sponsored by Performance Industrial.
Karen and Bill Miller, supporters of the show, supporters of so many good things happening in the capital region. Real Men Wear Pink. You hear us talk about Performance Industrial during the month of October. Saratoga Bridges, a great organization as well that this company supports. And speaking of, they are a South Glens Falls-based company. And so why not? Let's go. Jimmer Fredette to Paris with Team USA is a done deal. We saw it coming. Wasn't a shock, but it was nice to still get the announcement that Jimmer is one of 4 guys on this 3x3 Team USA squad to go to Paris this summer. Of course, the games on News Channel 13, NBC. Teamed up with 3 other guys. One is a son of an absolute legend. Here's the squad that is put together. Canyon Barry, Kareem Maddox, Dylan Travis. It's such a unique game that if anybody out there is scratching their head saying, I don't recognize a lot of these names other than Jimmer, that's okay. That's okay. You have to play it a certain way. These are guys who have bought in and invested and adapted their games to be successful in 3x3. We're calling it 3x3, not 3-on-3, 3x3. And so good for you, red, white, and blue. Send the guys who have really bought in on that sport. Jimmer, certainly one of them. He will be the leader of that team. Going to be so much fun. April's a big month for that squad, too, as they really kind of tune up for what will be the Olympic competition in Paris starting in July. Man, be here before you know it. Good for you, Jimmer. You know, I'm going to say this and it'll get some backlash. What hasn't he done? No, he didn't win a state championship at Glens Falls. No, he didn't have the NBA career many of us thought he would have. but he was National Player of the Year at BYU. He was a terrific NCAA tournament player when the Cougars needed him to be. Lottery pick, international sensation, both while he was in college and then when he was playing in China and Greece. And now this. What hasn't the guy done? Impressive. Good for him. Love to see it, of course. We're big fans of Jimmer here in the Capital Region. Nothing wrong with that. All right. The Marcellus MVP of the month coming up here. We've given you already our Major League Baseball predictions this season. Dr. Kyle Flick, though, is next from Ortho New York on Onorato and Miller. The injuries plaguing some of baseball's biggest stars, how he sees the rehab process.
Grab the family and get on the water in style with a Barletta pontoon featuring the power of a Mercury outboard motor. Whether you're cruising with the family or tubing and skiing, Barletta and Mercury will give you the best ride on the lake. Check out our great selection on Route 30 in Amsterdam and online at alpinhausboats.com.
The great thing about novices, no matter who you are, they're going to put all the detail in the world into your brand. I feel like they have been a big part of my success, making me feel comfortable.
This is Harrison Butker, Super Bowl champion kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. Claim your crown.
We're ready to help bring the vacation experience to your own home. With custom-designed Legacy Edition pools, we're confident we can turn your backyard into your own personal oasis, and we'll be by your side through the whole process. Visit our brand new showroom expansion on Route 30 in Amsterdam.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus.
Back at Alpin Haus, and a lot of injuries already hitting the headlines before we are into opening day of the Major League Baseball season. Guys who you would expect or at least hope to see on the mound opening day, not going to be out there. We're going to talk about how long they might miss and what the comeback trail really looks like for them in the rehab process. And Garrett Cole is certainly top of mind when we talk about that. But even the season Senga had for the Mets last year, that's an important miss for both New York squads, and no better person to talk to when we want to know the skinny on the injuries. That's our guy, Dr. Kyle Flick of Ortho New York. Doc, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, you too. Good to see you, Chris.
Been a little while, buddy, but you know how this goes. When there are big injuries to talk about, we call on you. So thanks for helping us out here. Let's start with Garrett Cole here, because this is a guy who was the reigning Cy Young Award winner in the American League, would be the opening day starter for the Yankees. And what we all would love to see the showdown against the Astros on Thursday afternoon, but we're not going to get Cole. He's got the elbow injury. How concerning is it for the Yankees?
Yeah, so the only information I found on this was it sounds like he's got irritation to the ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve is one of the main nerves that travels down the arm to the hand. It's on the inside of the elbow, the inner or medial side of the elbow. I don't know if I can get you. That's the side that gets all the stress on these throwers. That's right near where the ulnar collateral ligament is, the one that gets Tommy John surgery. And so that nerve is really under a lot of stress. And sometimes you can even have a nerve that can shift out of position, out of the little groove that it's in there. We all know that the funny bone is, you hit that nerve and it can send, symptoms down your arm. So it sounds like he's got an irritated ulnar nerve. And, if they keep him quiet for a while and do the typical anti-inflammatories and rest, he could certainly be back relatively soon, but it depends on whether this thing keeps getting irritated. And if it does, then he may end up having something done off season for that.
Okay, so that's an injury. I'll circle back here to one question I have on Cole, but that's what popped up with Lucas Giolito, the Red Sox starting pitcher. And you and I didn't discuss this ahead of time, but it's what Giolito is going to have a procedure on, which then will cause him to miss a significant amount of time.
Yeah, and that procedure it ties in really well with the general discussion about ulnar collateral ligaments, because he's having what they're calling an internal brace procedure.
Right.
Now, he might be having something done with the nerve as well, because it's all right in the same area. But what they've, I guess, one possibility is that if they're going in for the nerve anyway, and he's a high risk for having an ulnar collateral ligament injury, the internal brace is literally like a belts and suspenders. It's you're adding a type of strong suture, and you're connecting it at both ends where the ligament attaches, and
Okay.
you're giving the elbow further support. And I think we'll probably see this a lot more in the future. Maybe not prophylactically, like just to do it to prevent the Tommy John, but if he has some irritation to that nerve, and if he also has some partial tearing, or if the ulnar collateral ligament didn't look great, they may not do a full reconstruction, a full Tommy John procedure, but they can just augment what he has with a brace.
So stupid question. Is that a permanent thing then? That brace, as you're calling it?
Yes, it's literally like a tape suture, very thin, but it's a combination of a ultra high molecular weight polyethylene material, and it's braided or weaved with some with polyester, I believe, and so it's permanent. And we use it in sports medicine all over the place. We repair rotator cuffs with that same type of suture. I've actually started adding that suture to some of my ACL reconstructions to give it some internal extra support to try to lower our failure rates. So that's all that is. It's literally, it gets anchored into the bone with a type of anchor and it gets pulled tight and then anchored again at the other end. So it kind of mimics where the natural ligament runs from bone to bone.
And with that, no restriction to flexibility, range of motion, any of that?
Only if it's not, it has to be put in anatomically, right? So it's got to be what we call isometric, meaning it's not going to get too tight when you flex or too loose. So it's if it follows the normal course, then it should be helpful just to give that ligament extra support.
God bless you guys. Yeah. Unbelievable. All right, so back to Cole here. You said it might require more attention in the offseason. Is this something he can pitch with all season long? Is it, from somebody who knows nothing, basically pain management?
It kind of is. It's whether or not the symptoms are affecting his ability to throw well and accurately. So as long as his ulnar collateral ligament's fine, but if he's having numbness and tingling every time he, after a couple of throws, he's just not going to be effective on the mound. So we'll have to see if it settles down and keep our fingers crossed.
All right, somebody else
who's a Yankees fan.
Yeah, right. Somebody else who's going to miss opening day here for the Yanks, DJ LeMahieu, now shifting over to third base, really primarily for them, but still the leadoff hitter, key component of this offense. A bruised foot after he fouled a ball off his foot in late March. I used to lose my mind over the way we kind of detail bruises, a contusion. It's a bruise, but I understand how painful a bruise can be, especially if it's on the top of the foot like this one.
Yeah, sure. And it's a spectrum. If it hits the bone hard enough, it'll be like a stress fracture, which is like a really bad bruise, or it can break the bone completely. But so these things are typically not long-term problems, and I would expect within a couple of weeks he's fine.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's get to Senga here, who had a really nice first season with the Mets. 5 years, $75 million deal. This is year 2 for him. And with the departures of guys like DeGrom and Scherzer, this guy really kind of anchors that starting rotation, or at least that was the hope for the Mets in a very competitive NL East. Shoulder capsule. We've heard this mentioned before, and we've seen it sideline guys for a really long time. This goes back to late February, though, Flickster. What is your prognosis for him on the outside looking in?
Yeah. Again, not knowing any details about his injury. One of the things that we talked about before with pitchers, they all tend to get a very tight posterior capsule. So those structures are really put on stretch, and there's a lot of strain there on the release of the ball. So as long as they're confident it's not a rotator cuff problem, the capsule is deep to the rotator cuff. It's closer to the bones, and it's basically the ligaments that help hold the shoulder together. And if that capsule's just strained, it's a lot of rehab for stretching it out, getting the inflammation down. And I think it's promising that he can recover nicely from that.
Okay. Yeah. More pitching. I mean, it's all pitching. My goodness. Yeah. Max Scherzer is going to miss opening day. Herniated disc surgery was performed in the middle of December. He has said he doesn't expect to miss a ton of time, but he could miss a month here of the regular season. What's the greatest concern with Scherzer being his age on the other side of 40 and a herniated disc?
Right. I'm assuming that most of these are treated when they do have to be treated surgically with what we'll call a micro discectomy. So it's a very small incision, and it doesn't really affect the structure of the spine. It's just going in and plucking out a little piece of disc that's pinching on the nerve. So people can do really quite well with this injury. But we forget, one of the things with baseball and with pitching is it's the kinetic chain of power coming from your feet through your legs and your core, and your spine is hugely responsible for power and velocity and the rotation. So, it doesn't mean he's going to always have problems. This could be just a fluke, one and done, small, herniated disc. But, something to keep an eye on. We can't really. I was going to mention with the elbow injuries that we see so much, even in the very young pitchers, those high school pitchers that maybe even listening to this program, there's a pitch count that's very, very important. And we've defined that pretty well. Major League Baseball has something called pitch safe, which indicates what's the number of pitches you should throw in a game based on your age. We've got those kind of things that are helping to try to limit some of the injuries. But for a spine injury like this or a herniated disc, that could have happened raking his yard. To be honest with you, we don't really know. And the capsule injury that we talked about, these are things that we don't, have a great idea of what will limit those injuries. But we know Little League's elbow or a painful elbow in young kids will pay close attention to the pitch count.
Is that an official diagnosis? Did you call it Little League elbow?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Little Leaguer's elbow, for sure. That's in the medical textbooks.
First time I've heard that.
That basically encompasses that pain and stress on the medial side. And in young kids, there's a growth plate that's right near the ulnar collateral ligament, and that growth plate isn't closed yet. Most of the stress, that's the weak point right there. So you can get inflammation in the bone there, in the growth plate.
At what age, generally speaking, does it fully mature where you don't worry about that?
Typically after 15 or 16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, literally goes. I'd never heard of it. Scherzer's teammate Jacob deGrom, who missed that postseason run last year. Scherzer just came back for the World Series. Tommy John surgery again for deGrom.
Yeah.
Again, and at an advanced age for a major league pitcher, what would be the concern?
Yeah, I would hope he'd take all the time he needs to recover. It might be longer than it was the first time around. Maybe they're using an internal brace with him now or something to try to augment it. We've talked about this too in past sessions where every single fastball that's thrown is essentially hitting the ultimate strength of that ligament. And, it's not a wonder that we have so many of these injuries. So, he's going to be probably, a full 12-month type of rehab. Yeah. And I don't think they're going to want to push that.
Yeah. Okay. So if they're a playoff team, maybe he's back. I know Rangers fans are already hoping for that. And then our guy, of course, from Clifton Park, the Shengrady and Anderson with the Braves. The comments in the offseason have been very interesting to follow because the general manager there, Alex Anthopoulos, is very hopeful that Ian will really compete for what is a pretty much wide open fifth spot in that rotation right now behind Strider, Fried, Morton, and Sale. Tommy John surgery that if you were to just kind of project it out, All-Star break was the first estimation, but it sounds like maybe sometime in June for our guy who had it done early in the spring last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, that's going to essentially be a full year, and so I think that's generally the consensus that everything is healed as much as it's going to be, and the rehab is over. So hopefully, it sounds like he's doing well and feeling well. So it's not unreasonable for him to be back then.
Yeah, long toss for Anderson. He'll throw off a mound. Look, I get that this is just maybe a medical advancement and maybe we evolve as humans to some level too, but a lot of guys come back throwing harder than they were before once they've had this procedure done. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think there's anything about it's not a bionic arm. It's not anything about that procedure. I honestly think that they've, it's basically a nice year of rest. And while you're rehabbing your elbow, you're definitely working harder than you might otherwise on your core and your legs. So I think they come back stronger in general, but not just because of the elbow. I mean, the elbow is in good shape, but they've had rest. They've rehabbed their rotator cuffs. They've stretched and they've gotten stronger. And when you're in season and you don't have as much time to really focus on that, so maybe that might be the main reason.
That's good insight there. The guy who's helped keep the Firewolves healthy this season, Dr. Kyle Flick, Ortho New York. I'll see you in a couple of weeks for that Firewolves home finale on April 6th, man. Thanks as always for the insight and the help on the show.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate it.
It's March Mania here at Alpin Haus RV. March is full of big games and even bigger savings on new RVs, like this Coachman Catalina for $153 a month, or this Keystone Cougar Sport for only $344 a month. Come in today and shop a full line of America's top brands. Our knowledgeable team of outfitters is here to help you find the perfect RV. Shop online anytime at alpinhausrv.com. Great savings all month long at Alpin Haus RV in Amsterdam and Saratoga.
I'm Jeff Ukelek. I'm owner of Bev's, and we're a beverage center in upstate New York. You're just gonna have that wow component when you come in, like, wow, look at this place. It's bright, it's clean, it has everything that I need. Consumer is king. Be able to provide them a friendly environment and a place to shop, no matter where they are, whether they're down here in Saratoga or whether they're up in Queensbury. You're always going to get the same experience when you shop at Bev's. At the end of the day, if you walk in these stores, you're going to see a lot of people that have a lot of pride.
And now, back to Onorato and Miller. Sponsored by Alpin Haus. It's time for the MVP of the Month, sponsored by Marcella's Appliance Center.
Shout out to Johnny Marcella, Nick Matalone, the entire great crew at Marcella's Appliance Center, all those appliances in the Onorato household, courtesy of Marcella's. Got them as we moved into the brand new home, went out over to Marcella's, picked them out. Johnny gave us the price. We said, can't beat that. We will only go back to Marcella's for our appliances and our maintenance. There's no doubt about it. Check them out. Location, the flagship in Schenectady, and then, the facility in Clifton Park is new and exciting as it expands. Here is our Marcella's MVP of the month. Some hockey. Here we go. Artemi Panarin of the New York Rangers, the left winger, over 100 points for the season. The first New York Rangers player to do that since Jaromir Jagr back in the 05-06 season. And New York was the first team in the NHL to clinch a playoff spot this year. How about that? Whoa. Okay. So Panarin making some history that's almost 20 years old with the Rangers organization and helping them become the first NHL team to clinch a playoff spot. You don't realize how painful that all was for me. Only the minute that it took for a diehard Devils fan to say that. But what the Rangers have done this year is really impressive. And Panarin, who I thought maybe wasn't going to live up to the contract, is putting up a heck of a lot of points for the Rangers. Okay, that's as much nice as you're going to get from me when it comes to the New York Rangers. Let's talk about the NFL rule changes that have come on board, or will come on board, I guess I should say, for the 2024 season. And I like most of them. Now, the big one that will be a challenge is this hip drop tackle that so many defensive players have gone towards, because you can't hit a guy high. They respect the game. You don't want to necessarily have to take a guy out low. Okay, so you grab him and you drag him. You can't launch yourself at the guy anymore. So you're making contact, you're grabbing, and at the side, you're falling with him, dragging him to the ground. Injuries, at least the potential for severe injuries because of that style of tackle. And the NFL says, no more, it's out. It's become awfully difficult to play defense in the NFL. My goodness. The one that will grab everybody's attention. Hang on. I like this one too. Love this one. The ability to replay and then overturn roughing the passer penalties. Thank you, NFL. It's time. This one is wrong more often than not. Now, is it just going to be the pass interference challenge that we saw years ago that was an absolute dud because the guy upstairs didn't want to make the rest of his referees look bad and say, yep, that was the wrong flag? I mean, the success rate of the pass interference challenges was so dreadful that the NFL, after 1 year, said, we're not doing this anymore. What's the point? They don't get overturned even when they should get overturned. So is that what we're going to get with the roughing the passer penalties? It's the replay assistant who will look at it and determine whether or not it truly was a roughing the passer penalty. I have high hopes for it. It's time we try something. Hopefully the replay assistant gets the job done and does it right. But the rule change that everyone's going to be talking about and paying attention to is the wild adjustment to the kickoff. Now, if you watch the XFL, you are familiar with this. NFL kicker will still kick off at the his own 35-yard line. But what's different is that you're going to move the kicking team from that 35 or 40-yard line of scrimmage, if you will, into the returning team's territory. And just opposite of the kick return team the kick-off team will be the kick return team, and neither side is allowed to move until a returner fields the ball or it hits the ground. Also does away with the fair catch on the kickoff. So, yes, we will still have plenty of, automatic returns out to the 30 touchbacks. Hello, thank you. It's been a few weeks since we've seen football. Still get plenty of touchbacks, but I don't think as many because more strategy will come into play here. It also brings a return to the kickoff return position. A guy like Cordero Patterson, who just signed with the Steelers. A little emphasis there in those types. I'm excited for this one. It's a great way to reduce the potential for injury with high-speed impact and yet still bring the return game back into the sport, which I'm excited about. How about this? This is cool. South Glens Falls 8th grader Hayden Knapp is headed to drive, chip, and putt at Augusta National. Just 13 years old and an incredible golfer. What I would do, and I don't even play golf, but what I would do for her swing and the power she generates and the torque and the touch, all of it. Any golfer, no matter the age, would be lucky to have the skill set that Hayden Knapp has. South Glens Falls is the school. She's from Fort Edward. You can look for her on April 7th as the Golf Channel will carry the drive, chip, and putt finals live from Augusta National. Not a bad time to be there to kick off what will be Masters Week. Boy, what a jam-packed show we had here on Onorato and Miller this week. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Enjoy the college basketball. Enjoy Major League Baseball's opening day. And when you need something spring, summer, recreation-related, Alpin Haus is your spot. Just check it out behind me. Pools, spas, patio, deck furniture, they've got it all. Come check them out in Amsterdam. We'll see you next week. Back for Thursday night at 6:30, our normal slot on News Channel 13's Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.